Welcome back to MCP Connects. Today we're in New York City to talk with Broadway performer and Book of Mormon cast member Darius Nichols. Darius tells us a little about how he's been staying upbeat and engaged, and he talks about music as freedom. He also dedicates and performs a beautiful song to our rock stars and hospitals around the world. Here we go!
Want some more? A 2-year mission is our sacrifice. We are the army of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Joining us from New York City, we have Broadway Book of Mormon performer Darius Nichols. Darius, how are you?
I am good. I am hanging in there like the rest of the world.
Yes. And how is that going? How's the hanging in there? How's New York right now?
New York is good. You know, there's the great thing is most restaurants now have a outdoor permit, cafe permit, so there are flower boxes and dining boxes everywhere. So the city kind of looks rather beautiful. You know, people are eating outside, like in the park where cars used to park. They're eating there. Flower boxes around them, hamburgers, fries. It's great.
So it's almost like normal life.
Almost. Very close.
So we were talking before the interview started, and March 12th is kind of when things shut down. How has life been for you? I mean, you're accustomed to performing. You have been in the Book of Mormon for 6 years now. Yeah. What are you doing? Are you doing anything to stay creative and what's something that you've learned during the course of this last crazy 3 months that you'll take with you out of this?
A side hustle of mine is I'm a photographer. I do headshots for friends and family. So I was doing that prior to this. So now I've decided to do a video memoir of stories of my life because I figured I have the camera, I have the lighting. Let's sit down and just record this stuff because I want to tell the stories of my life, but I'm not the greatest writer. But I was like, I'm an actor and I have a camera and I have lights. So let's do it that way.
Nice.
So it's working out.
Super cool. So then are you going back? How far are you going back? I would assume then your kind of weekly calls with your mom is helping you develop that story and tell more of.
Yes, there are a lot of things that she fills in the gaps in my memory.
Yeah. Because
there's a lot of things. I remember the overall big picture of the story, but I was like, well, what really happened that day? You remember more. I was 4, so what really happened that day? So she's filling in the blanks for me. So it's been really nice to kind of like interview my mom and like,
yeah, there's something really beautiful about that though, right?
Yeah,
I mean, when life is crazy and you're hustling and you're performing and you're rehearsing and all of those things, you didn't have the time, and now you get to, go back and have that connection with your mom and kind of relive some of those things that maybe you had forgotten about.
Yeah, there's a closeness that's developed that probably wouldn't happen in the same way in this short time frame if it wasn't for this time period. So, the pros and cons of things, always exist. So.
Yeah. Your life was so built around bringing people together and having that shared experience, right? And that performance that you would put on with the rest of the cast members of Book of Mormon, that was this great shared thing. What are you finding that you miss about that most?
Exactly that camaraderie. The fun that I would tell people, there's a different show backstage than the one that's presented to the audience, which I enjoy. The interactions that happen. My good friends in the stage crew that I interact with, and we have a great time at the theater. And of course, I miss bringing that joy to people. I would always go out to every single show knowing and telling myself that there's someone in the audience tonight who is seeing a Broadway show for the first time or seeing this Broadway show for the first time. So I have to make sure that I perform for them because they've waited for a long time or spent a lot of money and they are just bubbling right now. And so I want to be there for them. And so I miss that.
Yeah.
Seeing those smiles, seeing those, ooh,
Yeah, right.
That's great.
But, again, I think that's one of those things, like sometimes you just don't recognize what you have until it's gone. And I'm curious, how do you think once this kind of clears up and you're back into performing, how will that affect your performances moving forward?
Oh, I am so looking forward. I call it the Broadway Rebirth. I am looking forward to that day when I'll audience comes back and I know I'm going to be an emotional mess. I just know I am because I'm an emotional person anyway. Most of artists are, but I just see myself just bawling during the curtain call. I just know it.
I tell you what, that is a day I want to be on Broadway taking, just taking it in, because I think there's going to be so much energy and, like you say, so much emotion and gratitude and joy and excitement and all of those things,
Like everything crowd-wise, not just the arts, but people are, longing for that in sports too. Like they're missing that human connection in these live performances, that we have to shift and do this way. We miss that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Direction.
So speaking of live performance, do you remember one memory, or what was kind of the most profound live performance memory you had that made you want to get into live performance?
Oh, yes. I know very specifically. I call it the day I met the orchestra. When I was in fourth grade, the class went to the National Symphony Orchestra for a concert, Meet the Orchestra concert. I didn't know anything really about music. And we went there. They played Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. And as soon as the brass played, I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. And I went home that day and I told my mom, I didn't know what I wanted to play. I said, I want to play one of those loud, shiny instruments in the back. And she bought me a trumpet, and thus began my performing career.
Ah, I love it. And do you still play trumpet?
I still play trumpet. It was my major in college along with voice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So
that was it.
Did you play and perform trumpet before you got into Broadway?
Yes, I was primarily a trumpet player prior to junior year in high school. My friend said, we need more basses in the choir. You should audition. I was like, I don't sing. He was like, yes, you do. I was like, oh, okay. So I went over, I sang Happy Birthday. She was like, wow, you're good. I was like, okay, sure. And then I started going to choir and fell in love with it. Started singing. I didn't realize that I had no idea. I just thought I could carry a tune. I had no idea I could sing. And so my friend was like,
I love that though. I mean, you go, so that experience in fourth grade, right? Where you see the symphony and that experience, and it changes something in you, and you want to pursue this path. So you start playing trumpet, and then because of trumpet, then you get asked to sing, and now that has completely changed the direction of your life, and you're a Broadway performer. I mean, what an incredible experience.
I still remember the first time I had my one of my first Broadway auditions. I was in my Broadway debut was 110 in the Shade. And when I went to the audition, there was a friend of mine who went to school with me. She was a theater major, and I was an instrumentalist and vocalist. And she was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I'm auditioning for this show. She's like, when did you get in the theater? I was like, about last week.
You're watching me get into theater right now.
And so, and it began. It was quite funny. It was quite funny. She's like, but you're a trumpet player. I said, I know, right?
I love it. That's beautiful.
And she and I ended up in South Pacific together. So it all came full circle.
Yeah, right.
It was great.
So good. So what do you have a kind of a strong memory you have of performance, right? Where you had a special connection with the crowd, or where you watched a special connection in the crowd, and that, in your performance really kind of changed the feeling or the emotion of the evening?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess for my Broadway debut, my friends and family were out there, and in the show, I was the first person you see in the show. The lights came up on me, and I was so nervous, but at the same time, I was so excited. And when the lights came up and I had to play harmonica, fake play harmonica, and I was like, I've arrived. This is my dream. I'm here. I'm doing it. And I almost burst into tears, but then I was like, you got to act. You got to stay in character.
Keep it together.
Keep it together. Keep it together. But that changed me. I mean, it made me realize that I had followed through on something. It's like, something big, a dream that I followed through on, that I worked hard for, and here it was in reality.
Living your dream in the moment.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. So we've got, well, actually, one other question I want to ask. So with these experiences, right, the trumpet, and then that moving on to vocal and performing in front of people, what does music mean to you? And can you wrap that up in one word?
Freedom. Absolute freedom. Being in music, I grew up in an urban environment, much like New York City, on the poorer side, lower economic side. And when I started doing music and playing in the band would take trips, Florida, Pittsburgh, Canada. And I started like, oh, doing this performing arts thing has opened up the world to me that I only saw on television, that I only dreamed about. Now I was traveling and doing these things and seeing places that I would never have seen, even
Yeah.
on Broadway, going on tour, traveling to cities that I would never make a destination
Yeah.
on a vacation, but then discovering how beautiful these cities are that I would have never gone to otherwise. So it's a freedom, an expanse, broadens your horizons, broaden your minds, cultural, inclusion, like all of that just is what it means to me completely.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's really powerful. And especially, so we have some kids that are watching, some rock stars, and we have some hospitals, and the ability to offer them freedom from the situations they're in, right? And
Yes.
take them kind of out of those experiences, out of those four walls through some music is incredibly powerful. Do you have a song, and do you have some specific kids in hospitals you'd like to dedicate it to?
I have a song, one of my favorites, Rainbow Connection. It was actually a song that made me think about freedom and traveling and dreaming and things like that. And dedicated to all those kids who are sitting there just dreaming about, like in The Wizard of Oz, what's on the other side of this rainbow?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have the names of the kids?
I do have names here. These rock stars: Faith in Minnesota, Lilly in Arizona, Annie in Arizona, Maddie in Washington, and Ambee. I think that's right. Ambee in Michigan. And to all kids watching at Seacrest Studios, Bronx LeBron Hospital, Children's National in DC, AdventHealth in Florida, and Children's Hospital of Los Angeles.
Yes.
These rock stars.
Perfect. Can't wait to hear your song.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who says that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on a morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing, and what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me, all of us under its spell. You know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep? And have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday you'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. The lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Yes, beautiful. Darius, thank you so much for that fantastic performance.
Thank you for having me. Oh my God, that song. Oh.
Man, you would never guess that it's been 3 months since you sung. You nailed that.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Man.
Oh, this is such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Well, thank you for your time, for your thoughts, for sharing a little bit of your life with us for the last 3 months. Are there any final kind of thoughts or words you want to leave with folks before we go?
Music is my life, and I hope it is everyone else's too. The arts expands your mind, it expands your heart, it brings people closer together, and I hope it continues to bring joy to everyone. And I hope we can get back to bringing joy to everyone and being close together, laughing, crying, hugging, everything again soon.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're a musician and would like to join us in supporting hospitalized kids, email us at rockstar@melodiccaring.org. I'm Levi Ware, and this is the Melodic Caring Project.